U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Beijing on the highest-level diplomatic visit between the two countries in nearly 5 years. Ahead of his trip, Blinken said he hopes to ensure that competition doesn't veer into conflict. Blinken started the visit with a meeting with Chinese Foreign Minister Xi Jinping. Now, both powers have said they're interested in stability in the face of increasing tensions over Taiwan. And for more, Fabian Kretschmer is standing by in Beijing. Fabian, Antony Blinken has expressed the hope that this visit will open a new era of diplomacy between the U.S. and China. How likely is that?
Well, if this new era implies any kind of diplomatic breakthrough, then I would say this is extremely unlikely. But you can already count it as a big success that the both world powers are talking again. We have to remember that Blinken was already scheduled to come to Beijing in February, but then the spy balloon incident happened. And during the last months, there was not much communication. And even when the U.S. side requested recently a meeting between the two defense ministers, the Chinese side ignored that request. And that was really quite alarming. So I think a realistic success of the meeting now could be to re-establish communication channels, especially military-to-military communication channels. And that would be really already quite a success from the first signals that we hear from people who were in the room with Xi Jinping and Antony Blinken, the two foreign ministers who had a talk. I would say they are cautiously optimistic for that. So, yeah, the first signals are quite okay.
Okay, now each side, of course, is going into this with a list of grievances. Can you tell us what areas they're likely to focus on and which issues they might reach some agreement on?
Yeah, the list of grievances really overshadows everything. I mean, the US, for example, accuses China of human rights violations in Xinjiang, of unfair trade practices. It also criticizes China for its Russia-leaning stance when it comes to the war in Ukraine, etc. And from the Chinese perspective, China sees itself as a victim of the US tax sanctions, and also it accuses Washington to trying to contain China's rise. And I think both the rhetoric on Washington's side, but also on Beijing's side, does not leave so much room for improvement or compromise. I would say that it's likely that both sides will focus on not the really major issues, but more on non-political issues. For example, climate talks or also narcotics control. I mean, the US also has a big fentanyl problem, and a lot of the precursors are coming actually from China before they reach the US. So I think they could, on those fields, maybe reach some small progress.
Another point of interest to this trip, do you think Xi Jinping will agree to meet Blinken, and what does it mean if he doesn't?
Well, that is really the crucial question, and we don't know so far. And that's really also says a lot how intransparent things have become here. We really don't know any of the schedule until the very, very last minute. In my opinion, it would be really a diplomatic slap in the face if Xi Jinping would actually not agree to meet Blinken, because just on Friday he basically welcomed Bill Gates. And if he would, meet with Bill Gates but not the foreign minister of the United States, then I think that would tell you something. So we don't know yet, but if we would not meet him, then yes, that would really not be a good signal for the bilateral ties between the US and China.
Well, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed there. That is Fabian Kretschmer in Beijing.